My name is Martin Ricard, and what I want to welcome you to today is something I'm calling Talk the Walk Live. Um, and I'm really glad you're here to join me because, of course, I know you could be doing a bunch of different other things. You could be, trying to put out fires. You could be scrolling through your social media feeds. You could be setting up meetings. But it's really important to me, especially being a part of SLAP, to join me today. And like I said, today is sort of meant to be a preview of, like I said, what I call Talk the Walk Live. And it's all about clarifying your voice for today's session. Because the way that I think about it, after a number of years of doing what I do in the social impact marketing space, I've been a journalist for a long time. I've been in the PR space. I've been in multimedia storytelling for a long time. What I've learned is that when it comes to what I refer to as justice motivated organizations, having something important to say isn't enough anymore. You need to know how to say what you're trying to say with your organization or as a business leader. You need to know how to say it with clarity, purpose, and power. So that's the whole point of this session is that I'm going to be talking to you about not only how to speak up about things like justice and equity as a business leader. I'm not just going to talk to you about a whole bunch of theory, but I'm going to show you some steps that work. So again, thank you for joining me today, and let's get into it. I know that Gabriel kind of gave us kind of gave us a sense of some kind of way to ground ourselves. Here's what I really want to do. I actually want to give us an exercise just to ground ourselves, if that's okay, if you'll indulge me. One of the things that I want to do before we kind of start talking about all this stuff, and I don't know how everybody's feeling about what's happening in the world, but what I want to do before we kind of start talking about all this theory and the strategies that I'm going to share with you is I want us to kind of do some type of quick reflection. So if you could indulge me, just grab a piece of paper, a pen, or just open up your notes app, or just feel free to jot something down. And I want us to just spend just a little bit of time just kind of starting with a reflection, okay? And so here's what I want us to do. I want us to think about what brought you here today. Now, obviously, I know we're all in SLAP, so we kind of got that out the way. But what I want us to really think about is, what's at stake if your business, your organization stays quiet right now. And it's really not about kind of coming up with like some kind of perfect answer. I'm not going to like quiz you on this, but it's really about being honest with yourself about the urgency you feel right now as a business owner, even as an individual. And so, like maybe you've been, I don't know, watching some injustices unfold in your community or in your industry, and maybe you're feeling like your organization's voice isn't really making the impact that you want. Maybe you're tired of playing it safe while the world is kind of like screaming for bold leadership, especially on the business side. And maybe you have something powerful to say, but you're not really sure how to package it so people can really listen to what you're saying and what you're saying as a business leader. So really, I just want us to take a couple of minutes. Again, I'm not trying to quiz you or anything, but let's just reflect on this question. Like, what really brought you here and what's at stake if your organization stays quiet? And I'll kind of just be quiet just for a second, just so we can kind of reflect on that. And then we're going to get right into this, if that's okay. Awesome. Okay. So as we're kind of coming back to the screen here, again, I'm not going to quiz you on your reflection or even ask you to just share what you wrote. Not just yet. There's going to be time for us to there's time for this to be interactive and to share. I just wanted us to kind of set the tone here and really think about that, because this, like, especially how things are happening in our society right now, I just think it's important to keep this question in mind, because it's a challenging one. I can admit that it's not necessarily easy to answer something like this as a business owner or a business leader, but I think it's important that we kind of keep this in mind. Okay, so here's what I want to share with you. You came here today. I don't know if you had some kind of expectations about what you might hear or what you might experience, but here's what I want to share. By the time we end this session, what I want you to have is just something concrete in your hands, right? You're going to have a powerful paragraph that explains why your voice matters as a business leader. And I'm not necessarily talking about your mission statement. I'm not even talking about some kind of generic, like, we care about justice type of language. This is meant to be like a real, specific, compelling explanation about why your voice as a business leader is needed in this moment. And so, like I said, it's not really meant to be just like an exercise, but I want you to think about this paragraph that we're going to create together as the foundation for everything else that you can do related to your marketing. This is related to your social media posts, your email campaigns, your business plan, and even your notes for when you are meeting with your staff. Because I really believe, and from my experience, when you have clarity about why you speak up, especially as a business owner, every other piece of messaging gets a lot easier. Okay, so before we get to the good stuff, let's talk about why most organizations struggle with their messaging in the first place. Okay, so for me, it comes down to kind of three common traps. Trap number one is this: speaking up on everything really dilutes the message. And so what I mean by that is, when you think about it, there's injustice everywhere. And depending on, your worldviews, everybody is an activist these days. And so when you care deeply about something, you want to address it. You want to, if it really gets to the core of what you believe, you want to speak up on it, no matter who you are. Figure out why they should follow you specifically. And so a good example of this that I've seen is like MLK Day, right? That happens every year. It's one of the many awareness holidays that, at least in the U.S., that most of us acknowledge, and I feel like most of us feel like is a good holiday to, acknowledge and kind of get beyond yourself. But what happens is, like, a lot of folks, like when you go on social media, it seems nowadays like everyone has something to say about Dr. King's birthday. And so when people, and a lot of people will try to, repost or post something about, usually like Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech, which is great, but that's something that, like, everybody is trying to speak up on, and it may or may not be related to what you're doing as a business or organization. And then, like I said, sometimes the message can get diluted. Trap number two is this. What I see is that there's not necessarily a clear audience, which equals wasted effort on your part. So you could be creating all these beautiful, heartfelt messages, and still you could still get presented with crickets. And so it's usually because you're trying to speak to everyone in your messaging, and that just means that, in all honesty, you're speaking to no one. And so your ideal supporter can't necessarily see themselves in your messaging. And so a good example of this is, you might see this in social media posts, where a lot of folks will jump on a video and they might start with, hey guys, I'm, Martin, and I'm from Community Symbol. Or you might have something on your website that says, who we are or what we do. Or you might kind of start off one of your email marketing messages with, hi friend. Something like that doesn't necessarily speak to your audience specifically. So that could be an indicator that there's no clear audience that we're talking to. And I would say trap number three is generic language. And generic language, what it really turns into is lower engagement. And so I think that it's a universal belief that, at least for the people in this room, I'm going to assume, like we all believe in justice and inequality for all. And that's great. But like I said, everyone these days might feel like they're an activist. And so the language, it might not move everyone the same. And so what it doesn't create is it doesn't create a lot of urgency or connection, which is really what we're trying to do here. And so what I see, and the reason why I'm kind of pointing out these traps before we get into the crux of everything, is that I see a lot of organizations, and I'm not trying to pinpoint yours. I don't know what your organization or your business is just yet. But what I see is a lot of organizations doing a lot of incredible work. They might be changing lives with their products or their services, or just the cause that they believe in. And they might even be making a real impact. But their messaging just doesn't reflect the power of what they're actually doing. So that's what we're getting at today. Okay, so I want to share with you this quote that I love from Audre Lorde. And she once said that your silence won't protect you. And so what she was talking about here was more of your personal voice, meaning like she was referring to uh, really the necessity of people who have been marginalized or people who sort of don't fit in the status quo. The necessity of those types of people speaking their truth, even when it's dangerous, right? But in my mind, as a marketer and as a storyteller, this applies to businesses and organizations too, right? So your silence, meaning like playing it safe, not taking a stand, speaking in code, because it might affect your bottom line, or there might be some feeling that it's going to affect your bottom line. Like speaking like that, it's not actually protecting you. Really, it's making you invisible, and that's kind of what we want to fix here. So we want to make sure your voice is really like planting your flag in the ground. It's how you claim your place in the fight for justice, as a business, as an organization. And when you're clear about why you speak up, you give other people permission to step into their power too. Okay, so I wanted to give you some examples. Uh, like I said, we're not just talking in theory here. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with Ben and Jerry's, I want to say. Give me a thumbs up if you're familiar with Ben and Jerry's. Awesome. Okay, so let me see if this works. Let's just take a look real quick at Ben and Jerry's and how they use their voice as a business. And I might add, this is a multi-million-dollar corporation. Okay, so whether you love Ben and Jerry's or not, because I'm not sure everybody's political views. That's not really what we're trying to get at right now. When you look at Ben and Jerry's, they've never really been confused about their voice. I mean, when you look on their website, I mean, their nav menu includes activism, so you know right away that Ben and Jerry's is not here to play. Like they're going to sell you some ice cream, but they're also going to stand up for what they believe is right, you know? And so if you look at how they have taken a stand on climate change, you can just see that like it doesn't feel random or even like opportunistic. Like they're not using some generic language. Um, Really, I mean, they're letting people know like this is an issue that they care about, and that they're going to be consistent about this kind of message. I'm not going to go through all of this, right? But you can just see, I mean, obviously this is beautiful because they have sort of incorporated their stance on a certain issue, and they've incorporated their branding and their messaging, with ice cream and things like that. But they're definitely taking what some might consider a controversial stand, on an issue that is affecting all of us, right? Another example that I will share. I won't show you the full video, but it's something that always comes to mind for me in terms of, there's different ways to do storytelling, and there's different ways to speak up about things, right? This is one of the creative ways that I've seen, just a group of people take a stand on an issue. I'm not sure if you remember, but a number of years ago, there was a young man named Elijah McClain. Basically, he was a victim of police brutality, and he lost his life. And one of the things that a lot of activists picked up on was that he was a violin player. So as opposed to just having a protest with signs, or kind of trying to do some kind of standoff with police or things of that nature, a lot of folks chose to hold vigils where people will play violins. Now, again, it's really beautiful to see. I don't want to take up too much time, but when you get a chance, take a look at the violin vigils for Elijah McClain, and you'll kind of see another creative way that basically an organization is speaking up and also playing into their values. Another example that I think about, especially in this moment, so right now in the U.S., there's a lot of ICE raids. People feel very strongly about this issue. But I started looking at this organization called the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, and they kind of made a parody of essentially this is like an ICE raid. And so what you're seeing in this video, I'll just play it real briefly, just so you can hear the sound.
Have rights regardless of your immigration status. If you have questions or if you see ICE in your community, call She Left Hotline, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So what you're seeing in this video is, they're reenacting an ICE raid, and they're essentially trying to teach people what their rights are if they're confronted with that situation, and they're kind of having fun with it, but they're also educating people with. So it's just kind of something to keep in mind in terms of like different ways to show up and speak up, especially as a business leader. Okay, so let's talk about how we basically like how we get to what I am trying to get out of this session, which is how do we get this statement that can be used on repeat to help our messaging and get clear on our voice. Okay, keeping these things in mind. Like, what do you care about as a business leader or as an organization? What values guide you? And what do you hope to change? Here's what I mean by that. So like when you're thinking about what do you care about, you want to keep in mind like not everything that you care about, because like I said, everybody can consider themselves an activist these days, but really we want to think about it in terms of like the specific issues that apply to your business or your organization. In terms of what values guide you, again, I'm not necessarily talking about like your mission statement or your core values as a business or organization, but really like what are the values that drive your decisions when things get complicated. And then again, when we're talking about what do you hope to change, I'm not necessarily talking about like world peace, although like I think we all agree that that would be nice. I hope that all of the wars stop and things of that nature. But this is really more about like the specific shifts you want to see in your community or your industry or your area of focus. And so really these three questions become the foundation of your entire messaging system, which is cool. So here's how we can kind of think about putting it all together. And we're going to do something kind of interactive in just a moment. Okay, so it kind of comes down to when you're putting together this statement that clarifies your voice as a business leader and as an organization. You can think about it in terms of really these 4 lines or 4 sentences, okay? And we're going to go over this and do this together in just a moment. So again, number 1, it's really about thinking about what you fight for as a business leader or as an organization. This is your core issue or your cause, but stated in a way that shows your specific angle, right? So again, if you have a business or an organization that I'm just making this up, that sells candles or skincare products, but you also care about the environment, we want to basically make it specific. Make it specific to your community or what really you're trying to what problem you're really trying to solve. And then, like I said, you want to think about the values that guide you as a business leader or as an organization. And think about this as like this is the hill, or these are the hills that you're willing to die on, right? When you decide to speak up and use your voice. And then we want to think about what kind of impact you want to make when you speak up, meaning like this is where you can get specific about like the topics, the policies, the moments when people can expect to hear from you. Because again, like I said earlier, you don't need to and you don't want to speak up on everything. But when you do speak up on something, you want your people, your audience to take notice. And then we also want to create some urgency, right? We want to think about why the thing that you care about, the thing that you want to speak up on, why does it matter? And why your voice is needed in this moment. Okay. So again, I've been kind of talking about maybe a lot of theory or kind of giving you some examples of what other folks have done. But now I want us to actually put this into practice, okay? So here's the next exercise. And this is something that we should have enough time to share and where I don't have to be talking the entire time. And I'd love to get to know you better and to hear your voice. So we don't have to take the full 10 minutes here, but this is important because this is going to drive everything we do after this step. But the next thing I want us to do is to, again, either take out a piece of paper, open up your notes app, really think about this, because like I said, this could make or break how you do your messaging. And so what I want everybody to do is to write 3 or 4 sentences with those, keeping those 4 lines in mind, which I'll put up on the screen. And I want us to write out a short paragraph that captures why your organization or why you as a business leader need to speak up in this moment. And again, you're including the core issues that you care about, the values that are guiding the decisions that you're making, and your vision, meaning like your vision for what you want to see in your community or your industry. Okay, so like I said, I want to give us a few minutes to do this, and what I'll do is I'll put the questions on the screen like this, and I'm going to give us about I'm going to say 6 to 8 minutes because of the schedule that we have. And then we're going to come back. I want us to try to workshop these. I want to offer you some live coaching, and then I'm going to give you a bonus to kind of take it to the next level. Okay, let's get to it. So the whole point right now, like I said, for the next part of this is to write your paragraph, write your statement. The best way to think about this is use a stream of consciousness. This is not about trying to be perfect. This doesn't need to be something where you have to feel like you're a writer and this is the final draft. I just want you to think about specifically as a business leader or as an organization, what do you fight for? what grounds your values? What are you speaking up about? And why is your voice urgent right now? And here's what I want us to do, and this is the fun part. We're gonna take this to the next level by using some AI, okay? And what I mean by this is I'm not trying to have us rely on AI to sort of replace our voice or, replace us and our authenticity. But what I find is that uh, using a tool like AI, especially with something like this, it could really kind of help you refine your message, and more so enhance your voice. Like I said, not necessarily replace it. So, again, I don't necessarily have a particular AI tool that, I prefer. I know everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with like something like ChatGPT or, Claude or Copilot or just something that uses some AI. What I'd like us to do is now I want you to take your statement, and this should only take about a minute or so, if that. Now I want you to open up your AI tool, whichever one that you prefer, and I want you to paste this prompt into the AI. Okay. The prompt it's like this. I want you to act like an authority, and you're going to replace what's in the brackets with your industry. And you're going to tell the prompt to act like an expert communications strategist. Then you're going to say, write a 150-word why we speak up message for an organization working on, and then what you're going to do is you're going to insert your 3 to 4 sentence paragraph. Make sure I know how to spell that. Okay. Okay. And then you're also going to tell it to use an inspiring voice, because nobody wants to hear something that is too depressing or that's always pessimistic or negative. So we want to make this something that you can really stand behind. Let me see. I hope this works. Okay. So I just put the prompt in the chat. You can copy and paste that into your favorite AI tool, and let's see what comes out. And then what we can do is I would like to take one person, and I would, I understand that this might feel tense, or there might be some anxiety. This is a safe space. So if you're bold enough, or if you want to just get it off your chest, I invite you to share what comes out for you. And then let's kind of workshop your idea. This stuff is challenging, no matter where you are in the world. I know, I'm speaking from the US, but I'm not going to sit here and act like the things that are happening in the US are just isolated, right? And again, this is not about like, taking some kind of political stance on where you're at. This is really about, like I said, really figuring out how to refine your message, and how to sort of enhance your voice as a business leader and as an organization. I did see a comment that if you, let's say your business or your organization, it just applies to one person. You can apply the same principles. Basically, you don't have to use we for your statement. You can use I statements. Like, let's say if you're a coach, or even like Faith was talking about, if you representing yourself as a therapist or something like that. These same principles and same statement, they can be applied to somebody who's working by themselves. Okay, so thank you again for just rocking with me for the last almost an hour. Um, what I want to just stress is that we've identified what a few of you already mentioned, we've identified the why behind your voice, which is super important, especially as a business leader and as a business leader who just cares, okay? And again, this is not meant to be or replace your mission statement. Don't just think of it as an elevator pitch, although it could be used that way. The real reason why you speak up is like we said earlier, is because uh, honestly, it would be easier to stay quiet, right? And we're not trying to stay quiet here. What you did is, like I said, you kind of put together a first draft that reflects both what you stand for and the urgency, and that kind of combination is really what makes messaging more compelling, and it works for your industry and for what you need to do as a business leader. As you just saw, we used AI to enhance, not replace your voice. And so now you have a tool that you can use to really polish any message that you're trying to use for your marketing, while again, keeping your unique perspective in mind. But as I said, this is sort of meant to be a preview, right? It's really kind of the beginning parts of kind of talking the walk and really using this in a very powerful way for your business or your organization. So before we go, what I want to do is I want you to imagine if you had a complete messaging system that took your why, like the clarity of your voice as a business leader, and then it helped you put together a messaging system that you could use repeatedly for your business, or like I said, for your organization.